7:11 now. If these long winter months and long wintry spring mornings have your garden looking a little less than it should, I'd like to help you get things looking beautiful again as the weather starts to warm up, as Sam's been talking about. Master Gardener Lea Anne Moran is here with us. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and we need some tips here. I need some tips. I like gardening, I've discovered. Let's start with your number one tip, especially when it's chilly like it's been.
Well, the number one tip, I think, in getting your garden ready for spring is getting the soil right. And
okay. Start from the ground up, right?
Start from the ground up, exactly. You feed your soil, and the soil will feed your plants.
I noticed that Connecticut has a lot of rocky soil. At least on my property it does. And anyway, so how do you get around that? Do you have to dig all that stuff out and replace it with potting soil kind of a thing? No,
you wouldn't replace the soil, you would just add to it. So add compost. This is a good time to add compost as a top layer to your soil.
Very fertile.
It adds organic matter, so it would help for drainage, to improve the drainage, and it helps give the soil nutrients that will feed the plants eventually. And eventually you can mix it in, or you can leave it on the top and let the worms do the job to mix it in.
Let them go and do the work for you, right?
Job.
We have some pictures of flowers, I believe. Let's have one of these up here. Tell us about these ones.
Oh, well, this is at Hillstead Museum, which is the place that I'm from. I work as the garden manager at Hillstead.
Nice looking stretch of land you got to work on.
Well, that's the museum there, and that actually is a shot of May Market, which is coming up in May. It's always the Mother's Day weekend, Friday and Saturday of May.
Okay.
You see a lot of people in there is our garden with the tulips that are breaking ground now, and hopefully in about 2 or 3 weeks we'll have tulips in full bloom.
How do you care for those? What's the secret to these guys?
Well, you plant the bulbs in the fall.
Okay.
You do not want to have them in a wet, soggy area. Tulips don't like the wet.
They don't want to be
soil.
saturated, right?
Exactly, yeah. They like good drainage. Another reason to put your compost on. And you can even put the compost on the soil in the fall as well.
Right. Now, people can buy the compost too, right? I mean, because for people who didn't do it last fall, they might feel like they're behind the eight ball, right?
You can buy it now. You can get it at all the garden centers, and they sell it in bags. If you 40 or 50 pound bags, and then you can put it around the top of the soil now.
So it's not too late now, but for those thinking ahead to next spring as well as this spring, you buy a compost bin, and then they can get those at the garden centers too, right?
Yes, you can get them at the garden center, and you can add your food scraps.
Orange peels, food scraps, all kinds of stuff. Right? What are some of the easiest flowers, some of the most vibrant colors that are somewhat on the easy side to get started with?
Well, a lot of people do annuals for bright color, and that will give you all season color, and they're available at a lot of garden centers and nurseries, all kinds of places. But I think if you wanted a longer term garden, then you plant perennials, and you plant them in a so that they bloom in a sequence. So you look at the garden center and see or they can help you.
Yeah. So it's sort of like a fireworks display. You kind of get one, and then that sort of gets sort of like a sequence, right?
Yeah. Something is blooming now, the tulips, and this is how we've planted the garden, or how the garden has been planted at Hillstead, so that you have a sequence of blooms. Now there's tulips, and forget-me-nots and Johnny Jump-Ups will be coming into bloom soon. I know we're off to a slow start this season with the cold weather, but then throughout the whole season you get different perennials that will bloom, and then annuals come into their own too, and bloom right through until October.
Lea Anne, does the cold start benefit any particular types of flowers?
It doesn't really.
No,
I think the snow we had in the winter does benefit.
It's like a slow, a time release of watering, right?
It is, but it keeps the ground warm. The winter we had last year, it was hard on bulbs and tulips because there was no insulation. But this year we should have a really good show once it starts of daffodils and all of the other blooms that are kind of buried in the ground.
What's your favorite? Do you have a particular? What's your favorite? Lea Anne's pick when it comes to favorite flowers.
Well, I think it changes all the time, but I love hydrangeas, which are shrubs. They grow on shrubs, and they bloom in the summertime. I think every year I have a different favorite.
Whatever's blooming at the moment, right?
Exactly.
You get to be a fair weather favorite, right?
But honestly, our Hillstead garden has some beautiful flowers that bloom, and some of my favorites are in there. There's some iris, some Japanese and some English iris that bloom in there that are gorgeous.
It's like a floral Epcot Center. And so you have the event coming up Mother's Day weekend.
We have the May Market, where actually if you want to have a tour of the garden, there, Steve Silk will be doing a tour of the sunken garden. I'll be doing a tour on our Connecticut Historic Gardens Day, which is June 23rd, along with other historic gardens in the state.
Perfect.